Hi, Mr. C here, and what I'd like to talk to you about is going ahead and putting together your face frame with a dynamo and how to set that up. And I'd like to address some of these things. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to show you exactly what we have. Now, inside here, we actually have one of the machines, and then inside here, we have some of the tenons. So essentially, we have our tool, we have the different cutters in here, and then we have a series of all the different tenons that would go inside to make the joint possible for you to put your face frame together. Okay? Now, I always pack this away and have the students pack this away just like we found it from the manufacturer. And what I'd like to show you first on the machine itself, on here we have a little tab. So we just go ahead and take our tool and click that up just a little bit. It'll allow us to slide this off, and now this will expose the cutter head itself. And essentially we have a locking pin right here where we can go ahead, push this down, and we rotate this. Once it locks in, the spindle is locked. And you can take the same tool and we can loosen up or tighten the tool itself, the cutter head. Okay? Now this happens to be the correct cutter head for what we want to use today. This is a 6mm cutter head. But if I wanted to use a different cutter head, let's see, a little bit difficult. We have all of them in here depending on what size millimeter you need, depending on what tenon you're going to plan on using. So I'm going to go ahead and close this back up. But this is the correct size, so we'll go ahead, place this on here. Now you want to be very, very careful. You don't cross thread anything, so just be very, very careful with this. So I'm just going to hand tighten this. And I'm going to take the spindle lock, push that pin. The spindle lock is right here. I just go ahead and push this in all the way, and then I go ahead and tighten this. Now that's tightened. Now remember, when you're doing this, you want to be super careful that you don't damage any of the parts, and then you line up the cylinders. Push this in until it clicks, and I heard it click. Now it's done. Okay? Now we are using a 6 by 40mm tenon. So on here, I'm going to go ahead and grab the camera real fast. And I'm going to set this for 40mm. So you can see that. This is 40mm right there. There underneath to allow for that to be exact cut. Now that I have my tool out, I'm going to grab this jig that I'll need. I'm going to go ahead and close this, and I'm going to close this one because these are no longer needed. I'm just going to take these and set these out of the way. Okay? Now we do have the Festool vacuum, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the vacuum. I'm going to place this inside of here, so this fits in here nice and snug. I do have my cord. Now this goes in here, and you just match up the pattern and then twist it according to the arrow on the actual end of the plug. Now this plug I'm going to take and I'm going to plug it into the vacuum itself. And then the vacuum plug I'm going to take and plug into our drop box with all our electrical. So that way when I turn on the machine, it'll turn on the vacuum and it'll create that vacuum for us. Okay? Now I have all my parts for my face frame. And then I want to show you, essentially, this piece right here will center. And as you can see, this is already set at 2 inches. I have the tabs that are off to the side. What I'm going to do is I loosen this up. I drop this down. I'm going to go ahead and take this jig. And you'll see it has little slots here. Taking down this side, just like this. Taking down this side. Now this will allow for me to slide this in here, and it's going to sit perfectly centered on the piece. I'll take off my regular glasses, grab my safety glasses. When I turn this on, I'm going to wait for it to get up to full RPM before I plunge this in to go ahead and cut my groove, okay? And then I'll rotate it around and cut the other side. So I'm going to have one hand holding this down here, one hand here. When I push in on this green button right here, this will allow it to go on. I also want to make sure that I'm holding this flat. That's why I have this piece of multi-layered plywood. It's nice and perfectly flat, so that way I know I'm getting a perfect, stay in the same plane or the perfect plane, okay? There's one. I rotate this around. Cut this and this one. Cut all my end grain slots. Now I just have to cut in the edge. So I have one here, and then on both of these, I have here, 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 and here. I have 6 more cuts left, but I have to remove this jig or this plate. So that's removed. I'll just place this out of the way. Okay, now I can go ahead, and I do want to take 1 second to go grab a clamp just to hold it down. I don't want to try hold this by myself, so I like to just go get a clamp. Just give me 1 second. Now I have my piece, and my piece is, the only piece that is completely done is the mullion. Okay, so let's go ahead and set these here. Now what I can do is set this in the edge. Or I go ahead and set this right here and cut into this one, and I'll turn around and cut it into the other side. This will allow it to sit flat. I don't have to worry about it moving. Go ahead and place this here. I turn it on and then I wait for it to full RPM and I'll plunge in. Now I'll rotate this around. So this piece is done now.